Madam President.
Senator from West Virginia.
Madam President, I request consent to enter into colloquy with my friend Senator Cruz from Texas.
Without objection.
Without objection. Mr. President, I rise today on behalf of the 476,000 West Virginians who rely on Social Security benefits. A majority of our seniors in every state relies on Social Security benefits, and we know that we're in trouble. The Senate is considering the Social Security Fairness Act, which would repeal the Windfall Elimination Provision and government pension offset from the Social Security benefit calculation, providing relief for many public employees who have been adversely impacted. Now, make no mistake, we have a problem. We all agree. The status quo is unfair, and it penalizes millions of hardworking Americans, whether it's teachers, firefighters, police officers, among others. But we also have an obligation to honor our promises to ensure that Social Security is going to be there for the people who have paid into it and have earned it, and also those generations who come after. We can fix this problem without blowing a hole in the Social Security Trust Fund. This is a $200 billion price tag. And we can fix that without having any effect on our budget. But it's just unbelievable. No one seems to really concerned about what we have and the debt we're facing. One of my first meetings here and hearings I've gone to, and this is in early 2011, the Armed Services Committee, I asked former Admiral Mike Mullen, I says, Chairman Mullen, he's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, what's the greatest threat facing America? And I'm thinking I'm going to hear what the military powers around the world. He never hesitated 1 second. He said the debt of the nation will bring us down first. The debt of our nation has brought down every major society in history. And that's exactly what we're on track to do. We have a fiscal crisis in this country right now, and no one's talking about it. On either side of the aisle, we're not talking about it. In fiscal year 2013, we had a federal spending was less than $3.5 trillion. In fiscal year 2023, 10 years later, it's $6.1 trillion. That's a 75% increase. No one can withstand that. Last year, total revenues were $4.4 trillion, which left us with a deficit of $1.7 trillion, the largest deficit in the U.S. history since the pandemic. We've been spending more than we bring in every year for the last 22 years, and the debt that has resulted from it is absolutely crippling. Most Americans couldn't even last 22 paychecks, let alone 22 years of spending more than they brought in. Years of fiscal irresponsibility have brought us to the crisis we are today, which is more than $36 trillion of national debt. That breaks down to $104,000 for every man, woman, and child in this great country of ours. $104,000 liability on every human citizen in the United States of America. And it's terrifying to think that at the end of the fiscal year, we're going to spend more on paying just the interest on our debt than we do to defend our country. This is the crisis we're facing, and we're going into this blindly, and it passed overwhelmingly with cloture at 72 votes. It's unbelievable that no one's even thinking about what we can do and how we could do it better. There's a problem. We can fix the problem. It's the governors make tough choices. I don't need to tell you all that. But however, as matters stand, we're now choosing to ignore fiscal crisis again. And if this thing hits the wall, that means it increases 6 months. It advances the insolvency of Social Security 6 more months. We're trying to figure out how that we can save Social Security. And we're not doing a thing for the people and fixing the problem we have that's within our means to do so. Our amendment would replace the Webb GPO with a proportional benefit formula, ensuring the public workers receive their appropriate benefits, which we recognize has been denied. We recognize that. Social Security Trust Fund is currently projected to become insolvent in 2033. 2033, less than 10 years. We lead the country with the highest percentage of our population receiving Social Security benefits. Texas is a tremendous amount of people in Texas depending on the same as my state of West Virginia. We need to make sure retirees are receiving their fair share, and we cannot do it at the expense of all beneficiaries and future generations. So I urge my colleagues to listen to my colleague here, my friend, my senator from Texas, and how he's come about putting this together, working together, knowing that it's something that can be done. It's a heck of a fix. We would hope that you all would support this amendment and be able to basically make a responsible, fiscally responsible fix to a very serious problem that we have, keeping the solvency of Social Security for generations to come and taking care of the generation of now that's basically depending upon it. And with that, I yield the floor to my friend.
Mr. President, I thank my friend, the senator from West Virginia, who is standing here. We are standing here together with a bipartisan plea to the Senate to act in a reasonable, fiscally responsible way. Senator Manchin and I are also, in a bipartisan way, asking the Senate, don't sell seniors down the river. Look, we all know the United States Congress spends like drunken sailors, and frankly, that's not fair to the sailors, because at least they're spending their own money. But even in that context, what we saw earlier today was tragic. The vote earlier today was designed to solve a real problem. The Windfall Elimination Provision, the WEP provision, it was enacted in an effort to ensure Social Security benefits are paid fairly, and they recognize the amount that is actually paid into Social Security. However, when the WEP was enacted, it got the formula wrong, and the result is, for thousands upon thousands of retired police officers and retired firefighters and retired teachers, they got shortchanged. A very significant number of those cops and firefighters and teachers are in my home state of Texas. I have heard from countless firefighters and cops and teachers who have raised that issue. And since 2017, I've been fighting to fix the WEP problem. In 2017, I introduced legislation to fix the inequity and to treat our retired cops and firefighters and teachers fairly. My legislation, I worked on very closely with Kevin Brady, Republican in the House, then the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. He initially had an agreement with the Democrat ranking member on the House Ways and Means Committee to get this resolved, but unfortunately, House Democrats backed out of that agreement. And so we didn't fix the WEP in 2017. We didn't fix it in 2018. We didn't fix it in 2019 or 2020 or 2021 or 2022 or 2023. And now, just days before Christmas, we step in with this bill designed to fix the inequities for retired police officers, firefighters, and teachers. So what's the problem? The problem is this current bill simply repeals the WEP across the board, which is a massive cost to Social Security. This bill imposes a cost on the Social Security Trust Fund of $190 billion, nearly $200 billion. What else does this bill do that we just voted on? It accelerates the insolvency of Social Security by 6 months. Social Security system right now is scheduled to be insolvent within 9 years by 2033. As a result of this vote, if the same 73 senators who just voted for this provision stick with it, Social Security goes broke 6 months earlier. What does that mean? When Social Security, if Social Security goes insolvent, there is an automatic benefits cut of 20%, over 20%, that goes into effect automatically by operation of law. So what did 73 senators vote to do today? To throw Granny over the cliff, to hurt Social Security for every senior citizen in America. Now, if that was our only choice, if our only choice was treat the cops and firefighters and retired teachers fairly or do harm to Social Security and to seniors, I could understand people making that trade-off. It's an ugly trade-off, but I could understand it because we absolutely need to treat retired cops and firefighters and teachers fairly. But there is another choice. The legislation that I introduced in 2017 and have been fighting to pass ever since. It is bipartisan legislation that I've introduced. I have it as an amendment to this bill right now. Senator Manchin, as a Democrat, is a co-sponsor. What does my amendment do? It fixes fixes the WEP problem. It fixes the windfall elimination problem, which means it corrects the unfairness for retired cops, for retired firefighters, for retired teachers. But it does so at a much, much more affordable price tag. The Cruz Manchin amendment would cost $25 billion over the next 10 years. $25 billion compared to $190 billion. And critically, the Cruz Manchin amendment has been scored that over 75 years, which when you're dealing with Social Security, you typically look at the longer window. Over 75 years, the scoring shows it has a negligible impact. It doesn't speed up the insolvency of Social Security by a single day. So the Senate has an option right in front of it. Take care of the cops, take care of the firefighters, take care of the teachers. But at the same time, don't hurt the seniors. Mr. President, I'm confident that every member of this body goes home to our states. And we tell senior citizens, we're going to protect Social Security. Well, you know what? If 73 senators in this body continue charging ahead to blow a $200 billion hole in the Social Security Trust Fund, every senator who votes that way is breaking their promise to the seniors in their state. Every senator who votes to impose $200 billion of cost on the Social Security Trust Fund, you are choosing to sacrifice the interest of seniors who paid into Social Security, who've earned those benefits, and who deserve to have them protected. What's so frustrating is this should be easy and this should be simple. I can tell you in the Republican conference, I urged my colleagues, I said, listen, let's take this up and finally pass it early next year in the brand new conference. John Thune, the incoming majority leader, committed, if the Senate did not proceed on this bill today, to take up my amendment on the floor within the first 3 months of next year. Listen, I understand the frustration of the people who have been fighting to get this problem fixed, because they've been fighting and fighting and fighting, and it's never gotten there. So people are understandably frustrated by being treated unfairly. But we have a way to fix this problem, to put more money in the pockets of retired cops and retired firefighters and retired teachers, but do so in a way that is fiscally responsible and that doesn't hurt every senior in America. It saddens me that only 27 of us were willing to stand up and say, we're going to keep our promise to protect Social Security. We're going to keep our promise to protect the seniors in West Virginia and Texas. We're not going to sell Granny down the river. There's still a chance for this Senate to reconsider. It would be very simple to take this up. It would be very simple to schedule a hearing in the Finance Committee early next year. The incoming chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Senator Mike Crapo, committed to having a hearing on this legislation early next year. We can fix this problem without blowing a $200 billion hole in the Social Security Trust Fund. I would happily yield to my friend from West Virginia.
Say that I think what happened is we have a bill that's hard to vote against, really is. And I understand why there were 73 senators who would vote for it. Senator Cruz has had this and worked diligently for many years on this, the fix, the WPO fix. The bottom line is it never came to committee here. It came out of the House and came right to the floor. Now, whether they thought it was a feel-good vote or whatever, only thing I'm saying, it's not a responsible position for us to take at the debt that we're carrying now and complicating it by adding more and more on. And we all talk about the fiscal responsibilities. Every one of us have fiscal responsibilities in our home. Every one of our family members, every one of our constituents. We seem to have no constraint here whatsoever. And we saw that $200 billion price tag on this. Is there a better way? Now, you can be against something if you don't have a better way of fixing it. We basically opposed this piece of legislation because we can fix the inequities done. And that can be done in taking care of the people who got left behind and got shortchanged. We identified it. The bottom line is we have a fix for it. Let us fix it. If you wanted to fix it and have a good bill, you should have put it in committee. If it's not, it's going to be done next year with a commitment from the majority party, let it be fixed. But don't throw another $180 billion on top of it as debt. It's just irresponsible. And then tell your grandparents or your aunts and uncles who are depending on that Social Security check, like almost 500,000 West Virginians, that sorry, in 2032 now, maybe almost 6 months to a year earlier, you're going to have a 20% cut in your Social Security payment. So if they're getting $1,000 a month, they're going to get $800 in the next check. Don't know why it happened. How come? How can you let this happen? We can fix that. We really can. All we're asking for is a consideration of this body to fix it and fix it right. Take care of the inequities, take care of the people that have been shortchanged, but also take care of the people who are depending on this Social Security to be solvent.
I thank my friend from West Virginia, and I urge the body to listen to the very reasonable words from the senator from West Virginia. I will say the senator from West Virginia is retiring in just a few days, and we're going to miss Joe Manchin in this body. We're going to miss a voice of reason on both sides of the aisle. We have in front of this body a bipartisan amendment that fixes the WEP problem, that treats retired cops and firefighters and teachers fairly. But it does so while being responsible and not blowing a hole in the Social Security Trust Fund. Mr. President, my dad is 85 years old. My mom is 90 years old. Both of them rely on Social Security. We have a solemn obligation to honor the promises we made to seniors. There's not a senator in this body who hasn't promised seniors, I'm going to protect Social Security. Well, if the Senate goes forward and passes this bill, 73 senators will be breaking their word. I ask my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, do the right thing, do the responsible thing, keep your word to the seniors in your state. I yield the floor.